Well, good morning, everyone. Happy after Super Bowl day it is today. And we have the champions. We know the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is exactly what's going to happen to General Market this year. We're taking us to the Super Bowl. So we are super excited about our day today. So thank you for joining us for those of you that are here live. And we have a family of success with us. They are the Duetzmann's family. And we have Nancy and Katie here. And they have a fabulous gentleman named Stephen or Steve Duetzmann. And he is with us today. They are coming to us from the East Coast. And we are so excited to bring you some tools and training on how to really keep your business moving. We know technology sometimes can feel fearful, doesn't need to be. So Stephen has had a lifetime of Jafra. And so we are so excited to welcome him to our Jafra family today. And so without further ado, Steve, are you ready for your Jafra team here?
I mean, I was practically born ready, almost literally. And we'll talk about my, kind of story in a moment. But I mean, yeah, long and short, yeah, I'm ready. Let's roll. I'm going to start sharing my screen if that's okay with the Jackies.
Take it away. Thank you so much for joining us. All right.
So, thank you for the gracious introduction. But I feel like there's a little bit more context required because, who is this strange man in your Zoom call? So I guess the first thing I'd like is, could I have some folks wave at me just to make sure you can hear me all right? Is my audio okay? Great. Figured we'd start with that. So my presentation today is about falling in love with technology. Part of that's Valentine's themed. I don't want to ignore that. However, it's certainly important. It's a mindset, and I'm here to help you do that. So some additional context about me. Clearly, my mother and my sister are here. Y'all are familiar with her and them. I have been a part of. I was raised with this company. My mother's been selling it since I was 9, back in 1989, and I am. I'm not going to make folks do the math, but it's a long time. So I know the company. I know its history, its evolution, and most importantly, I know the challenges that all of you face, right? This is not easy work, even if you like it. And so, especially considering the fact that in the last, 30 plus years, technology has gone off to the races and changed this organization probably a dozen times, I think, if we tried to track it. So for me, why am I here other than I'm just some kid that was around Jaffa for a long time? I have 10 years plus of experience in content marketing, social media. I work and live on the internet. Part of that's because I'm a millennial, so we're all chronically online. But the other piece is I have taken some of that natural knowledge that I have gained and I've turned it into my own business. And the way that I do that is, if you look right there, I run SideQuest Solutions, where I'm essentially a consultant to help with content strategy, social media, et cetera, to help people who are trying to earn some extra money using side hustles or, working in affiliate marketing, et cetera, take that extra time they have and make meaningful money out of it. And so I do that in a couple of different ways. The first one is I have a free newsletter that I send out every Sunday. We'll send some pitches to that later. And what I do is I demonstrate my expertise. I help motivate and I help teach people how to use technology in accessible ways. And I have a group and I also do consulting. So I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I've had some very successful folks. And Jackie heard about that from my mother, who, she talks about me a lot. I guess that's fair. And she wanted me to come in and share some of that knowledge and expertise. So the learning objectives today, this is what the goals. I'm going to talk a little bit about content strategy and why that's important. I feel pretty strongly I'm a content strategist. That's how I identify myself. I think everyone needs a content strategy in 2024 and beyond. I'm going to introduce you to some free tools that you can use to build your business. And I'm gonna I have a whole slide. We're gonna spend a bunch of time talking about how to learn how to use technology without getting overwhelmed, because the reality is this world is full of a whole lot of noise telling you what you must do, when you must do it, and how you need to do it. And it can make it really hard to learn some of these tools that are objectively pretty easy to learn. So those are the goals for today's presentation. I'm going to start right off the bat by kind of level setting as far as some of my opinions. Social media in today's business landscape, go figure, I start coughing now, is mandatory. You can't really sell things without the internet anymore. Specifically, you can't sell things without using social media. You can, in theory, but you are leaving a ton of money on the table if you ignore it. So I'm going to help get you in there, and kind of make it easier and less difficult to use. But the reality is, platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Excuse me. I'm sorry here.
Don't worry. I've been sick for 2 months and they're used by now. So you're good.
My goodness. Yeah, but they know you. You've built up like social capital. I'm just some random man on their Discord, or not their Discord, on their
You're doing great.
Zoom call. So Facebook and Instagram have 4.74 billion users combined. That's more than half the planet use that service every month. So it's an unavoidable part of our society, culture, and marketplace. And the market itself is moving towards affiliate marketing with social support, which is what you have always done. It may not be what it may not necessarily look the same, but the reality is you sell a product by showing what it does and showing how it has helped you. And that's affiliate marketing with social media support. So the Jafra business model fits very neatly in that market shift. And I don't want any of you guys to miss the boat, because it's easy to miss it, but I think we can give you some tools to help fix that. Everyone has an opinion about social media. This is the last thing I'll say on this one. Everyone has an opinion on it, and that's certainly fair. I read this a few weeks ago, and it had a huge impact on me. And that is, the market does not care about how you feel about TikTok or Instagram. Your customers are there. A big sea change has happened. Thinking about TikTok specifically, and this is probably the only time I'll mention it. A lot of folks have an opinion about that it's just teenagers dancing to inappropriate music. The average user on TikTok right now is 30, and it's growing. The average age is increasing every day by nature of the fact that older folks are getting onto it, and also those teenagers, well, they get older every day. That's just how math works. So the average user on this thing that we associate with children is 30, and I know that my mom liked to call me her little baby when I was 30. I was not a child. So I had buying power. I was able to spend real money on real things that were important to me. So under the assumption that social media is mandatory, you need a content strategy. And what is a content strategy? It's pretty straightforward. It's just you have to think about what stuff you want to say and to who, and to be a little organized about it, because just rolling your face on your keyboard isn't going to be very productive. It might be therapeutic sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, but it's not necessarily going to sell anything. The advantage of being organized in the way that you generate and share content online and on social media is you can help build trust and build relationships with people. And the reality is every person in this room is a leader. You're here not by accident. I don't think anybody tripped into this Zoom call. You're here because you're able to build relationships, right? You are skilled at that. By being organized online, you can maintain those relationships the same way, especially if you're dealing with younger folks. I have closer relationships with folks that I interact with only digitally than I do with some of the folks that I've known and seen in person my entire life. The digital divide is not as big as we might think. Having an organized content strategy can increase visibility and brand awareness, right? You have a personal brand. You are your relationships, and you are the skills and your messaging. by being organized and just being thoughtful about the content you create, more people will see you. That's just the way that that social media works. Obviously, it will support the sales process because you are putting out content with the intention of selling product. That's what we're doing here, right? We're not, we are very clearly selling a product that we value and selling an opportunity that we think is worthwhile. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on this call. So that helps support that. We can differentiate from competitors because you are unique, right? You are not the other person, within a different page. All of you are unique, even from yourselves, right? You have different approaches, different messages, etc., different stories to share. And the last one is it generates leads and sales, that's what we all want, right? I mean, all of us want those checks to be higher. We want to make a little bit more money at the end of the month. At least I do. I guess I shouldn't assume for everybody, but that's important. So I like to think of technology as a team. And this is where I think, one of the big things when I talk to folks about content strategy is I don't have any time, right? None of us have enough time, right? We're adults. We have families and houses and, our own businesses to run. Who's this guy showing up on this Zoom call telling me that I need to generate a content strategy and start posting all over the internet? Who has time for that? I agree. None of us do, right? We don't have a lot of time. I myself, I make the joke, I have 5 jobs and 3 kids and 1 wife. It's arguable which one takes more of my time, right? So so I view, and none of us really have employees, right? That's not the business model here. We work on our own. Maybe we're a partnership or we work in a team, but for the most part, we're responsible for our own work. I view the different pieces of technology that I work with as members of my team. They're my employees because I use them correctly. So, for example, I think all of us would love an intern. Wouldn't it be great to have somebody that you could delegate menial tasks to, ask them to do things to research, to do minor edits to things like emails, to sort lists in order, etc. I think all of us would love to have a designer on staff, right? You'd never have to make another invite or, meeting itinerary or PowerPoint ever again. This PowerPoint was made in the tool that I'm going to show you. I'm sure all of us would love a project manager to keep us on task. Maybe we don't need it. I do. And I can't force my wife to help me with everything. She's got her own stuff going on. And maybe we all want a social media manager. Nobody has time for that. There are tools. And, having an extra salesperson to help make some sales for you. I think all of us would appreciate having those things in, working on our team. And that's how I view technology. Excuse me. It's the idea of going out, finding technology and tools and recruiting them to do jobs for me that either I don't want to do or that I can't do, or that maybe I could, but, I'd rather not. Maybe it's tedious. So I'll give you some examples. So all of these are free. These are tools that you can use at 0 cost, and they can serve a whole bunch of different purposes. So the first one, and I know this is a hot button issue. I know my understanding is that Jackie has actually done some trainings on this in person. And this is ChatGPT, which is a generative AI. I have done my share of presentations in the last handful of months where as soon as I say the words generative AI, half the people in the room, their eyes roll into the back of their heads and they start looking at their phones, because this is going to be, the belief is that this is going to be some incredibly nerdy stuff that is not practical or useful to the average person. And fair, it is incredibly nerdy stuff behind the scenes and under the hood. But at the end of the day, it's a mindset thing. For me, ChatGPT, and Google has its own program. If you don't, if you're big into Google stuff, it's an intern. And what I use ChatGPT for is I use it to ask questions. If you look at the little conversations this is my screen. If you look at the things that I have asked it to do, I asked it for some advice on Valentine's Day Facebook posts. I asked it for some titles for a newsletter. I asked for basically I ask it to write things, edit things. I'm also a big fan of, here's this data, put it in order, and it will do it. You just talk to it like a person and type to it like it's a chat bot. I'm not going to go into super detail with any of these tools, teaching you how to use them. There's resources all over the web, and we'll talk about how to do that. But this is an intern. And if you've ever said, wow, I would love someone to be my intern and do a lot of menial tasks, that's what this is for. The next one is Canva. This is your pocket designer that will make anything for you. And I have regularly tested the limits of what Canva can do. In fact, this entire presentation, my Zoom background, I made in 3 minutes using templates on Canva. It can make just about anything, including goods that you can print. And so this is a screenshot of me making this presentation in Canva. There are tons of tutorials on how to use it, but most importantly, it has a lot of free templates that you can just use and put your information into, maybe drag some Jafra related pictures into, and you really have to do minimal work to get it. This will help you make things like images for Facebook or invitations to a digital event or an in-person event. Anything you could think of that you would want either in print or to post somewhere online, this will do it. And if you look at some of the design options, it really does include just about everything. The next one is Buffer, and this is it's a social media management tool that I recommend for small businesses because it is really perfect for people who have one account. So if you have like a Facebook account, maybe a Facebook and an Instagram, Buffer allows you to go into one tool, attach your few social media accounts to it, and schedule posts in advance. So maybe if you only have an hour or so a week to schedule social media posts, you could go into Buffer and you could schedule a week or 2 weeks without a lot of extra work. And it has some tools to kind of, improve that. If you use nothing else when interacting with social media, I have 7 or 8 social media accounts that I'm responsible for, and I almost never use the actual program itself. Like my Facebook, I very rarely post directly from Facebook. I'll post from these other tools. They're easier to use, and they give you more options regarding, making one post and having to go to multiple places, etc. The next one, you guys might have heard of this one because I know that there have been some folks talking about it, and that's MailChimp. MailChimp is a newsletter platform. And so one of the things that a lot of folks doing sales nowadays, and I know there are some Jafra folks that have had some success with this, is building your own personal mailing list. When you go to events or when you meet people, you can have them sign up onto your MailChimp mailing list. And then once a week or whenever you feel your cadence should be, you can just send them directly a list of your sales, a list of promotions, notification of events. There's all sorts. Your creativity is the limit here. But you basically can send a mass email to with some really great design options to your whole mailing list, and you're telling them, listen, this thing is on sale this month or this week, etc. They are more likely to buy it, especially if they know what they're opting into. So this is one, again, there's tools, there's advice and guidance all over the place on how to use this. But at the end of the day, this is a tool that I think that a lot of you might find value in, because it gives you direct reach to your audience and to your customers as you meet them. And in compared to some other social media platforms, you'll actually do some pretty killer numbers comparatively, because you're not competing with anybody else. It's just they get the email and they go with it. The last one, I had this because I use it. My wife, actually, I ran this presentation by her, and she was like, maybe this is a little too much, Steve, but bear with me. This is a tool called, my screenshot's broken. Trello I put the wrong image in there. Look at that. Trello is a project management tool that basically lets you make really awesome to-do lists. there is training out there. Maybe if Jackie and Jackie are not upset with what I'm doing now, we can do trainings down the line where I can show y'all how to do it. I think I just got myself cut off from future trainings with this screwed up slide here. But it is more or less a really fancy to-do list thing. I use it because I forget everything, including apparently editing the slides in my presentations. So it is, how often have you had a really good idea in the car and you just need to, as soon as you just need to be able to pull over and put it somewhere? This lets you take those things, put them in one place so they won't be forgotten. And it's like organizing index cards on a pegboard. You can move them around, you can reorganize them, expand them. I use it for everything, including I make a magazine every month and I use that to keep track of my ideas. I use it for my newsletter. Yes, I use it to keep track of my kids' birthdays. Don't hate me too much. I admitted that to my wife. I got a little bit of a judgment. So that's like my team, right? And suggesting that to you guys in preparation for this is, these are just some of the jobs that you might need to help build your Jaffer business and help make more money. But I actually think there is a secret sixth employee that is probably more valuable than any of these five. Now that I have, I sat with my mother at her computer looking at her Jaffer Biz account. And that sixth employee is Jaffer itself. And I know I'm stretching the metaphor here. Because obviously they don't work for you, they work with you, right? It's a great partnership. But the content hub in
I'm serious about securing.
So the content hub in Jaffer Biz, which I'm sure Jackie and Jackie have beaten this dead horse, but I want to take a different angle on this one because I want to talk about the value of what they are giving. Because I went through there and I think I called my mom and my sister each like 4 times every time I would click into a new thing. So this content that they give you, be it static posts, which are the images, and the videos. I create social media content for salespeople, for other people. I charge, and I'm cheap compared to a lot of designers. I charge $200 for 15 pieces of content. So, and that's from a design perspective, that's inexpensive. I'm undercharging, and I do that because I'm relatively new, right? And and it's also not the only thing I do. Just in the fragrances bucket alone, there are 240 posts. That is, if you take it by, if I were to make all of those things for you, number one, they wouldn't be as good because I don't have the quality of images that Jaffer does, obviously, right? Like it's their stuff. But just from a value perspective, that is thousands of dollars of stuff that if it's not being used in some way, you're kind of leaving that money on the table. And I don't think anybody wants to leave money on the table. The monthly content alone, I went in there and I counted, and by the way, I don't even make videos right now because that I can't price that out correctly. But the videos for stories and reels, those are more expensive, obviously, than static posts. So the monthly content bucket is, $500-600 a month that they're just giving you that you can use. And so I would encourage all of you, we're talking about content strategy, we're talking, whatever. If you learn nothing from me today, and that's fine, right? If you learn nothing from me today, learn the value and recognize the value of that stuff, and encourage your teams and you to start using that content whenever possible. There is enough stuff. I did the math because, well, just look at me. I look like the kind of guy that would do that math. I did the math and figured out that if I took all that content and put it on a Facebook page, I could post 6 or 7 times a day. And by the time I ran out, it would be, a month, maybe 2 before I had to circle back to it. And that's not even using everything. And I'm not sure that any of y'all would really want to post 6, 7, 8 times a day. So as a result, that means you basically have an infinity amount of content coming from Jaffer. So use it. This was an eye-opening and amazing tool. So I would encourage everybody to, if you haven't already, definitely take a look at it. There's a lot of stuff in here that's very, very useful. As a side note, under opportunity and other, they have a lot of content about social responsibility and, you know, environmental responsibility. You know, we don't test on animals, stuff like that. Those pieces of content, especially in 2024, I want to highlight those specifically because there are a lot of folks that are being drawn to buy from companies who care about things. So we might think, oh, well, you know, that's not a big deal. You know, it's definitely something you want to keep, you know, keep those in your rotation as something that you post even every once in a while. Every day, probably not. But, you know, some of those, they're good and valuable reminders because, again, people are looking they want to buy from and affiliate with companies that care about the things they care about. And this is an easy win. I think all of us are glad to have a company that doesn't test on animals and is sustainable. You know, there's no reason not to talk about that. And that may seem irrelevant. Trust me, it's more relevant than you might think. Especially, you know, looking at market trends in the last couple of years. That's huge. So next slide. Okay, so I just overwhelmed everybody for, you know, what, 20 minutes and gave everybody a ton of information and, you know, gave you a ton of homework. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. And because technology is overwhelming. I myself, recognizing my learning style, it's really hard for me to sit on a Zoom call or watch a YouTube video and just watch some talking head tell me how important it is to schedule 3 posts on my Facebook page every day. Like, great, thanks, dude. That's very helpful. But until I know my learning style, right? I have to see it and I touch it and feel it. That's how I do things. So I've learned my learning style, and that's how I have started slowly to pick up these new tools. I think one of the first things, and this is kind of relating it back to the beginning, right? Falling in love with technology is a mindset. A lot of folks, and this is not a generational thing. I have a friend of mine who was born 3 days before I was. And I will never forget, she came up to me in the grocery store and asked me if it was okay to teach her son how to use a mouse before he went to school. Because she was worried about whether or not that would arrest his handwriting or whatever. I don't even remember. And I was like, no, as a matter of fact, you should probably teach him how to use a mouse, because if he doesn't know how to use a mouse, he's going to hate kindergarten when he's using a mouse. Lo and behold, when he went to kindergarten, everyone was in digital school for 2 years. So imagine if he didn't know how to use a mouse then. So it's not generational. So there are my peers and younger who, when they see a new piece of technology, they say, oh, well, that's not my thing. I don't need that. What I would encourage you is, before we talk about anything, is when you see something new, when Jackie has some other bearded guy in a plaid shirt come on a Zoom call and talk about some new technology in 2 or 3 years, don't recoil from it, tilt into it, right? What is this? How could I use this? And the reason for that is that simple mind shift of leaning into discomfort will pay off. Some of these things are going to suck. There's no way around it. You're going to see a piece of tech and you're going to say, you know what, this platform's not for me, or this tool does not give me the value that I expect from it in order to be worth it. And that's great. But trying it, being willing to at least give it a little bit of an effort will help, because you never know. You might find something that will change everything. Had I tilted away from everything, had I retreated, I never would have found Canva. And Canva has fundamentally changed the way I create content. And I stumbled on it by accident. And the same thing happened with ChatGPT. I was laid off a couple of years ago and I was out of work. And I saw a YouTube video about this thing, generative AI. And really all I wanted to do was feel bad for myself and play video games. That's all I wanted. But I was like, you know what? Let me watch this YouTube video. And it taught me. And at the end of it, I opened up a ChatGPT account. And now it has fundamentally changed the way I work. I interact with every piece of text that I see. I have an intern now, so I generate emails faster. I edit everything. I'm able to communicate with my brother better because I can put his text into ChatGPT and have it translated to me. And that's relevant because my brother is on the spectrum. And sometimes I have no idea what the heck he's saying. ChatGPT helps me communicate with him. So now that's obviously an extreme case, but I never need to manually put things in alphabetical order again. I'm done. That's grade school stuff. I make ChatGPT do it. It's that kind of thing. So that's the first step. Now to talk about the tactics on the slide. How to avoid being overwhelmed by new technology. Numero uno, try new things. Just do it. Once you get used to trying new things, you're going to learn your aptitude for doing those new things. You're going to figure out, okay, what do I have to do? Do I need to sign up and just hit things on my phone? Do I need to watch a YouTube video first? Do I need to find a tutorial from someone else? Do I need to have a friend show me? Do I need to call Steve and have Steve show me how to do it? Which you could do. It would not be hard to get me. Or your Steve. I'm sure all of you know someone like me. I'm not that unique, no matter what my mom tells me. So that's the first one, is trying new things regularly will make it easier to try new things in the future. The second thing is start small. And I think this is a big one, right? You know, how many of us have said, I'm going to go to the gym. I want to start working out. And then you go and you overdo it. You go too many days a week, you go too much, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later you stop because it was just too much. Or you go on a diet and you just change too many things and it's not sustainable. Technology is the same way. You know, I want to make a Facebook business page and I want to post content on that Facebook business page. Great. I think it's perfectly reasonable to set up a page and post once a week so that you get used to it, right? So you understand how to hit the buttons and where they are before you try and build a multi-layer content strategy that involves static posts, video posts, an AI operating chat and reels, right? Like, you don't need to do all that stuff at once. Any incremental improvement will be of value to you, right? This is kind of that, show of hands, who's read Atomic Habits? Anybody read that one? If you haven't, Atomic Habits, brilliant book. The Cliff Notes version is, rather than trying to do huge things all at once, he recommends trying to improve a little bit every day, because if you do it a little bit every day, the math works out in your favor and it's easier to do. But his book is way more eloquent and it's very interesting. Technology works that way. Just do little steps first, and then they'll build on each other. The next is online tutorials. A lot of folks are like, I don't know how to use Facebook, so I'm not going to. Or I don't know how to use Instagram, so I'm not going to, because I'm not sure how to learn. I would encourage everybody to get really comfortable with YouTube. And the reason for that is that YouTube is the second biggest search engine on Earth. Technically it's first because it's owned by Google. So like if you just jam them together, it's the number one, but like I like to say it's the number 2 search engine in the world. And I am very confident that if I set my mind to it, I could build a car from scratch using only YouTube videos. I am technically, like mechanically incompetent. I am not certain that I don't know how to sharpen a knife, but I have fixed my furnace. I have, like I changed a tire. I shouldn't be able to do that, right? But like I did it. And that's because of YouTube. And everything else I know, all, making these things, a lot of them, I found a YouTube video and I watched it, especially when it comes to using software. Canva specifically, they have droves of people who teach you how to do everything. So go into YouTube, ask it a question, and then look at the people and listen to a few videos and pick someone whose voice you can hear and understand. That is to say, if somebody's voices, my wife, she can't listen to people whose voice is too high and whiny. It annoys her. So she doesn't listen to those people on the internet. She just doesn't. And there are some people that just don't want to listen to a guy, right? Like you just don't want someone with a harsh, Connecticut accent coming at you as a dude, just being, barking orders. Maybe they want to talk to a woman that has a softer approach, that's maybe more like a school teacher as opposed to an instructor, right? There are so much variety. You don't have to just go to the first one. The next one, set realistic goals. And I think this is it kind of relates to starting small. A lot of folks are like, I want to use social media. So that means I'm going to turn into Gary Vaynerchuk, who is the preeminent social media creator in the world. He makes billions of dollars. He wants to buy the New York Jets. We don't need to do that in order to be successful. In fact, I would think if y'all met him, you probably wouldn't want to be like him. So the idea is you don't need to become an expert in a day. There's so many silly metaphors, and Rome wasn't built in a day and all that stuff. I'm going to avoid those, right? But the idea is you don't need to be an expert right away, because no one's an expert right away. You got to practice. You got to try new things, and you have to figure out what works for you, because the reality is a lot of these platforms, you have to find what is your cadence, what's your preference, and your style, which matters, right? As I look through all these windows in front of me, everybody's got a different style. Everybody has a different point of view. I mean, I'm loving the different Zoom backgrounds, because I learn a lot, right, just from looking at those. You can tell from mine that I don't want to show you the living room behind me because it's messy, right? But like the idea of setting realistic goals is super important, right? You want to know what you don't want to try and be more than you need to be, because you overwhelm yourself. And the last one is use the tech daily. This kind of goes back to the first one, but the idea is the more you practice, the better you get, right? And by a lot of these tools are meant to replace parts of your workflow. They're meant to be new. They're meant to be your new favorite kitchen knife, your new frying pan that you use every day for breakfast. That's what these are supposed to be. And if you do that, they're all going to get that much stronger, and they'll become just a thing that you normally do. When you get a new car, it may not be something you're used to driving, but you get in it every day and drive to where you got to go, and you learn because you have to. And that's one thing that I know, and I have learned, because I've talked to a lot of folks that get overwhelmed by tech and don't like it and whatever. There's something to be said about, like, if you just kind of force yourself to do it, you'll get better. But there's also like a need thing, right? Like, you want to succeed in your business. This is important to you. Otherwise, you would not be taking an hour of your day in the middle of a Monday to listen to some stranger talk about social media, right? Like, if this wasn't important to you, you wouldn't be here. I know that. You know that. If you were in the woods and you were cold, you'd figure out how to start a fire if you didn't know how. You'd figure it out. I know every last one of you would, because it's important, right? If you were, in the middle of nowhere town, USA, and your car got a flat, maybe you never changed a tire before, you would figure it out. I know every last one of you would, because you have to. And I feel the same way about technology. It's moving too fast to ignore it. And I have faith in a whole bunch of people that I've never met before. But I have faith in all of you, because you wouldn't have gotten this far within this organization if you didn't have that in you. That's one thing I know about Jaffa, right? You don't get here by accident. So I know all of you have that in you. So make it a part of your day to day. Treat it like something you have to do. And all of you will be teaching me things pretty soon. And I love to learn new things. So that's the end of my presentation. I think we got 20 minutes left for Q&A. Jackie, we got anything for me? Or you're muted.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute like a weirdo and I couldn't get there. Yeah, we definitely have questions in the chat. Okay, let me scroll backward. So Maria asked, Facebook is stopping third-party apps from posting. How can we get around that?
Let's take a look, because do you have an example of that?
So my guess would be platforms like Post My Party, and it just ran out of my head, where you can plan your content and pre-post. Yeah, if someone wants to put it in the chat, what I'm thinking of, the kind of pre-poster anyway, it's fine. But Post My Party is one of them, where you can only post to certain kinds of things on Facebook. Since Share, thank you, Linda. Since Share was being blocked for a while in groups or just in pages or back and forth. So is there a really good program that Facebook is friendly with? I think is a great question.
Universally, no. They're gonna Facebook. I mean, the reality is Facebook wants you to use their tools. Part of that is because they spend millions of dollars investing in their own tools. That's one of the reasons why I recommend Buffer, because it is kind of universally accepted, and generally speaking, Buffer is non-offensive to the Facebook tools. You're more or less just posting native in Facebook, meaning it's not doing anything crazy. It's not trying to trick Facebook into doing anything. It's just scheduling posts and posting them. Whereas there are other third parties that like really try to create custom content within Facebook, and that's something that Facebook does not want. They want posts. They're cool with people scheduling stuff. And they will always be okay with people using social media management apps that schedule things, because Facebook makes money. Like their entire income comes from large businesses that rely on advertising revenue and scheduled posts as part of their social media plans. So things like Buffer, or I use Deliver It personally. There's a bunch of them. You just Deliver It's really complicated, so I don't generally bring it to an audience like this one. But like the schedulers are probably going to be safe until Facebook does something crazy. But if they do, there is the Meta Business Suite, which is built into Facebook, that you could use as a secondary option. It's there. It's not as user-friendly from my perspective as Buffer, but you could use that as a backup. And so that would be the Meta Business Suite. If you wanted to see what that looks like, literally just Google Meta Business Suite. It'll bring you right there. You have a Facebook page. You'll just log right in.
Awesome. That actually brings us into a couple of questions about Buffer. So how does Buffer compare to other social media posting platforms, which I think you just answered pretty well. And is there any way you could show us Buffer a little bit right now? Awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to share some stuff, but let me hop in. Bear with me here. Where did it put my Zoom toolbar?
The world may never know.
Oh my goodness. Well, here it is. Here we go. So I'm gonna unshare my screen for a moment, or we're gonna do a new share, and I'm gonna show you Buffer. Now I have a so let's see. Let me know when you're in there. You should see like a dude with a pen and a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so I use one of the other projects I use. I run a video game board game website. That's a side project, more of an experiment for anything. It doesn't, but that's what the social media channels are here. So, in case you were wondering what this weird gaming stuff is, so essentially, when you sign up for a free Buffer account, it will encourage you to add channels. There are limitations. There's a limit of 3 on the free plan, but like these are all the types of things you can add to it. Pinterest and LinkedIn, Twitter or X, whatever we want to call it. Threads is coming soon. That's actually kind of cool. I didn't know that. That's new as of the last couple of days. And so you'll add your profiles, which I did. I have these 3, an Instagram account, a Facebook group, and a Facebook page. It's a pretty standard suite. I think a lot of y'all may have or could have. And then what you do is you can go into create a post, and you need to let's see. Well, let's just make one. So what I'm going to do you see my whole screen or just that window?
I see your Google screen and your tabs.
So let's just get wild and use 2 plans. So I'm going to use ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, give me a social media post. Don't judge my typing. I'm a very bad typist, which is weird, but we'll deal with it.
No judgment zone. You're doing great.
Games for kids. So this is a gaming thing, so obviously it's not relevant for you guys, but I just said, give me a social media post about board games for kids. It's actually searching the internet for it, and it's going to give me some recommendations. And these three sound great. And I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'll put it over here. And what it does is this is the, the creation pane. And over here, it'll give us a look of what it will look like on Facebook. So it'll show us, I'm not sure why the view is so crappy. So what this will do is it'll show you what the caption is. And so I'm just going to pick a random file because I'm not actually going to post this, but you will have images. You just put them in there. And as you build your Facebook or Instagram post, it'll give you the text right here. It'll show you what the caption will look like. So you want to make sure when you're posting something, you want to make sure your first line is really snappy, grab people's attention. Because they're going to have to expand it to see a fair amount of it, right? And then it'll show the image. And so this will be a preview of what it'll look like on everybody's Facebook feed. And then what you do is you add it to the queue. Because the way Buffer works is it's a buffer. You create content and you fill a bucket and it slowly empties, trickling those posts onto the schedule that you have created. Now, I am going to delete this because it's nonsense. But what you would do is if you have 1 hour a week, or 1 hour every couple of days to sneak in and make some posts, you hop into Buffer, you make a bunch of posts. You don't have to worry about when you're scheduling them, when you are creating it, because your Buffer has you actually go in and you can create the calendar. And let's see here. They moved the UI around a little bit because I've been using a different tool. And this is the free version. So some of my older tools I switched companies. But if we go so you see this schedule here where it says at 11:43 a.m. What I was doing was having it post every day at 11:43. We can change the settings here. So if we go into right here, we go in and now we can add more posting times. So let's say we want to post just on weekdays. We added a new time on weekdays or, every Friday and it adds there. And what it does is it just puts blocks on each of those days. And then as you create content and dump it in there, like, for example, taking all the images off of the Jafra Biz site, which you can just go in one afternoon, download them all en masse, make a bunch of posts, and it'll just fill up a whole week. And you know how many you'll need if you look at this, because it'll show you, right? You need, right here, if I was posting just on weekdays, right? This is 11 posts. So fine, in order to fill this up, I need to put in 11 posts. Does that help answer the questions for?
I think so, yeah. So you can use, for everyone, y'all can use any combination of your own content Jafra has already put out for us, stuff that you want to curate to your pages that's not just Jafra based. If you want to share a 30-day self-care challenge, you can schedule every single day in one sitting so that you don't have to sit and post at the same time every day, which I think is awesome. So you can curate what your social media looks like for you and your brand. Don't be afraid of that word. So that it's easier for you to batch your content and you can spend your time doing stuff you like more, like pampering people. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome. So one more question for you, and I'm not sure that I can translate it. So Rochelle, I might need you to tech speak straight to Steve, but she says, being pushed to Facebook's Jafra Facebook business page, the feed is different from your personal page. How do you explain to consultants how to build their audience so they get to then stay engaged with your business page? I'm not sure what that means.
I think I get it.
You do?
I think
Okay,
I get it. Yeah.
one tech brain to the next. Go for it.
Sure. So my biggest suggestion is to just not share off of the Jafra page. If you are creating content, there's different purposes for different things, right? But if your strategy right now is, oh well, I'm going to take the content from Jafra, and the way you're going to do that is by just sharing from their page to yours, that's going to inherently create a conflict between their link, your link. You might be sending, it's going to be a mess, because Jafra is unintentionally your competitor. You're all each other's competitors. There really isn't any other way to deal with that, right? Like, and it's not intentional. It's just, if I see 3 people's Facebook, Jafra Facebook posts, I can only click one of them, mechanically speaking, right? So what you want to do is, when you're instructing your consultants, you want to encourage them to share from Jafra only when their specific purpose is sharing the Jafra page for one reason or another. I don't think, and this is from my own thing, and I don't know the rules nearly as well as Jackie does, but my understanding is that you are never expected to share the Jafra page on your own. If you were, I think it would be unambiguous, and they would tell you this needs to be shared from the mothership, right? I would encourage everyone to, even if they're using Jafra's direct stuff from the Jafra homepage, like mothership, copy and paste, download the image, make it your own, and don't leave any trace directly to Jafra. You should be able to do that by not tagging them. Now, because you don't need to. You are your own business. So that's how I would do it, is just don't use Jafra. Use their content, because that's what they want, but make it your own. And specifically, don't just share it. And I see a lot of that, with folks that will share directly off of the Jafra site. And, that works for like awareness. And, maybe there's some stuff but in general, make your own stuff.
I agree. And you guys remember what I always say is that your face is the thing that sets your business apart from everyone else. You are the it factor in your business. So always try to make it personal to you, right? Last question, Steve, and then we're going to free you. We want to know if you've heard of a social media tool called NowSite.
NowSite?
Yeah, NowSite.
Well, I have not, but let's do some real-time research.
Why not?
How about let's do like a real, this is how I would handle this. We'll do this in real time. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
So what I do is I use an AI tool called Perplexity. Again, this is just how I handle this. So it's called NowSite.
Yep.
And I'm gonna say, what the heck is NowSite? And this is how, somebody brings something up. I see a YouTube thumbnail, whatever. So NowSite appears to be a company that offers AI-powered marketing platform and other business tools. It's a marketing system, and it's said to help entrepreneurs with marketing, prospecting, and sales. How neat is that? You give me, and maybe it'll give me a URL. Well, first off, is it legit? Is a good question. It's a marketing platform. So, all right, so let's go to NowSite and see what it is. Be worth following. Okay. Oh, they're in Bangor, Maine, Mom. How wild is that?
They're right by us. Okay.
How wild. So a social media system ever for entrepreneurs. So it's an AI tool. It lets you post on social, comment on posts. Okay. So my initial read, and this is, again, I found out about this site a minute ago, literally from someone in here. My initial read is, I don't think this does anything on its own that other free tools don't create, don't provide. However, the first thing I'll do is I'll go look at the features and see what it does. So now that I look at all the stuff it offers, I feel like this might be too much for a direct sales type of environment. And part of that is any company that has like a website, you don't need a website, right? Like they offer a web, you don't need one. Jaffer gives you one as part of your case. You don't need CRM. That's customer retention and management tools. You don't need that. Jaffer has that. And if you really need one, you could make an Excel spreadsheet. It would probably work just as fine, right? You don't need teams because you have tools to communicate with your teams. And so this is really more like if you're trying to start software as a service, or trying to. This is a little bit too big, I think, for us. It's neat, but like I think, like, yeah, I mean, you don't like lead generation and prospects. Like I feel like this might be a little bit too much. There may be some other tools that you could find that would be better. I am also very concerned, and this is my number one issue, is there is no pricing on the front page. And so one of the first things I'll do when I see a new tool, and we'll use Deliverit, which is my primary social media platform. The first thing I do before I even look at features is I ask, are you going to tell me how much this thing is? Because if you aren't, that means the price is hidden. It means you're not really happy about it. Whereas with Deliverit, it's right here. No hidden nothing. Now, because the reality is the age of everything AI being free is gone. Like
Right.
we're past that. Most everything worth using is going to have either a free version that's severely limited, or it's going to cost a little bit of money. The free versions that I found here are some good ones. They are limited, but they are still, combining them together is still useful. So that's my research on NowSite. I'd encourage you, look at it yourself. It says, log in, get started. You could try. My read is that this might be a bit much.
I agree with you, and I think that it's definitely worth exploring for bigger stuff. But yeah, my read is the same, Steve. Thank you. Do you guys have anything else you want to ask him? We are just about at time, but I don't want to keep you from the master while we have him. So if there's anything else, pop it in the chat or shoot your hand up and let us talk.
Yeah, feel free if you want to cuss me out, talk to me, whatever. Just bring it. Let's bring it.
The recording.
I mean, listen. Don't do it on my account. What I do want to say, I'm going to put something in the chat, and if I may, Jackie, be so bold. So,
How do we get a hold of you, Steve?
Helen wants to talk to you, Steve.
So the first thing is, if you were happy with any of the stuff that I said today, I would encourage you to sign up for my weekly newsletter. That's the first piece. The second is I have a website that I'm going to put in the chat, and I'm hoping that it doesn't block links. This isn't Twitch, so I think I'm probably okay, but it's stephenduetzmann.link. That'll get you to there. There's a contact form. And lastly, I'll give you one more place that you can get a hold of me. And that is my Facebook page, which I would love everyone who thought that what I said was of value and I'm going to go ahead and put some other links in the chat, but that's the best way to reach me is through those channels.
And then I will in turn take all of his contact links and put them in our WhatsApp and in the weekly email when I send out the recording and the deck here. So you guys will have a million ways to get in touch with Stephen Duetzmann. All right, friends. Well, thank you. First of all, Steve, thank you for feeding us today. I appreciate it. I know the girls do. I see it in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all, I'm going to stop the recording in just a second. And then if you want to stay, I have a short 5-minute Marketing Monday social to go over. And if you don't want to stay, I'll send the recording. So it's not a big deal. But let's everybody give a big round of applause to Steve. Thank you.
I'll clap for myself.
You should, because you did a great job. Thank you so much for being here with us today.